Hello, welcome to Google Drive 101. We are so happy to be joining you today. Let's introduce ourselves. I am Sherry Gick. I'm Director of Professional Learning for Five Star Technology Solutions. And with me today is
Katie. Hi. Hi, everyone. Really good to see you. I'm an Associate Director of Professional Development. The really great thing about Sherry and I is even though we work for this professional development company, we have education backgrounds and love to chat Google stuff with you through the lens of an educator.
absolutely. Speaking of Google things, Katie and I are both Google certified trainers. Our company, Five Star Technology Solutions, is a Google Cloud partner specializing in education. And so, like Katie says, we are all about sharing with educators. My background is library and technology, special education, and elementary education. Katie, yours background's a little bit different than mine. So, you taught
Middle school, I taught ESL, I taught eighth grade language arts, and I taught in a project-based learning classroom.
awesome. Well, one of the things, as we talk about coming from Five Star, we love to change the way that you experience professional development. So hopefully, during our time together today, you'll have a great experience and learn a little bit about Google Drive, which is what we're about to dig into. So let's talk about those objectives, Katie. What are we going to be learning today?
Awesome. So we are really excited to talk about Google Drive and me personally because this is one of my favorite Google tools. If you ask me what tool I love the most, it's this one because everything else comes from Google Drive. So,
Katie's a Drive fan girl. I just want to put that out there. Like that's your thing.
so we will just briefly touch on the role of Google Drive. We want to make sure that everyone is real clear on what Google Drive is and why we would use it. We'll take a tour of Google Drive so that way you know where all the important buttons are and maybe some of the things that you don't necessarily see on a regular basis. We'll definitely take some time to think about how to create and share Google Drive files and folders so that way you can use your Google Drive effectively. And honestly, my favorite part about Google Drive is the ability to organize it. So, we're going to talk about tips and tricks on how to organize your Google Drive and stay organized because we know that Google Drive can become a hot mess if we don't.
So this is going to be a lot of fun as we talk about Google Drive together because Katie and I are also opposites when it comes to organization and drive how we do things. And so we're going to try and highlight how that works and so kind of give you all the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But this is a 101. So just a reminder, as far as like, if you know all of these things, this session may be one that you can share with your friends that you're always telling these things to, that they want to learn about Google Drive. So we're going to just be scratching the surface and getting you started.
That's right. So again, like we said, before we even dig into Google Drive, we want to make sure everyone's real clear on what Google Drive actually is, why we would use it, all that good stuff. So we like to think of Google Drive as your online or your digital filing cabinet. This is where you can easily store and organize all of your documents, the things that you would use in your classroom, but just in a digital environment. The cool thing is you can access Google Drive on any device. You can access it on a computer, on a tablet, on a smartphone. So you have your files no matter where you go. And I love this because as a teacher, when I first started, I had to go into school every single Sunday to get all my files and prep for the week. And once we had access to Google Drive, I no longer had to do that because I could access all of my teaching materials from home or the coffee shop or wherever I was.
And I like being able to access it on any device because my experience in schools was I was always in someone else's classroom because I did a lot of co-teaching and collaborating and traveling to different parts of the building. And so I would be logging in and pulling something in from my drive. I didn't have to worry about, let me email this to the teacher and then have them pull it up on the screen. None of that. But also, it's so nice because I have the app on my phone as well. So there's sometimes I'm pulling up and changing settings there.
Awesome. We know that Google Drive is really great for organization and storing those files, but the cool thing is you can actually create new files as well. So we'll talk about where to find access to things like creating new Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, and even more of those Google tools that you know and love. Basically, it's the starting place for everything that you do in Google. And so we'll make sure to show you where all that is at. But you also can upload and store files like PDFs. So if you have things already saved on your computer or on your device, you can add those in. You can store images, you can add videos, audio recordings, and lots of other files, including Microsoft files. We can put those inside of Google Drive and convert those. So if you're a Microsoft user and you're worried about that not necessarily transferring over, we'll quickly show you kind of what that looks like.
Again, it's truly your digital file cabinet. You can put everything in it and it'll be there no matter where you are.
Again, that's why it's the best tool, because everything starts from Drive.
So how do we get there, right? We
Yeah.
know what it is. So how are you going to get there?
Yeah, so we are definitely going to talk about a couple different ways that we can actually get to Google Drive. So, if at this point you want to follow along, if you want to open a new tab or you want to go along with us, so that way you can try out some of the things that we're doing, feel free to do that. Sherry and I are going to talk to you about the ways that we get to Google Drive. There's lots of different ways. So we are going to show you one using your Google App Launcher or those squares. At 5-star, we talk about food a lot, so this looks like a waffle to us. So you might hear us refer to the waffle because that's what it looks like. So that's one way you can get there, or you can always just use the website. Now, for me, because I use Google Drive so much, I actually have bookmarked Google Drive. So, Sherry, I know that for you, when you go to Google Drive, how do you start? What's your process of doing that?
Well, I don't use a bookmark. I usually just open a new tab and I type in drive.google.com and it remembers it for me, right? As far as like it knows that's where I'm going. And that's what I always do.
Yep. Now, I know a lot of other people, their homepage might look something like this. They get to Google, or that's where they start. And again, if you wanted to go this way because you don't want to type in the website every single time, that's totally fine. Like I said, look for those
There's that
app
waffle.
squares or that waffle. Click on that, and you're going to go find your Google Drive triangle and click on that. And that's going to take you directly to your Google Drive as well. So easy ways that you can access Google Drive. You can think of, lots of different ways to get there. However it works best for you. That's the great thing about Google, is there's lots of ways to do the same thing, basically. So now that we're in here, now that we are in Google Drive, I want to just briefly kind of talk about what I'm seeing. Now, what I'm seeing might be different than what you're seeing. Sherry, I know that your Google Drive does not look like mine.
No, it doesn't.
Me, when I get into my Google Drive, a couple things I see. Across the top, I see the suggested files. So files that Google thinks I should be opening or working on because I recently opened them and did something with. And then my files and folders, everything that I have in my filing cabinet is in my drive. Again, my drive is my filing cabinet. I own these files, or I have created them, or I've put them here. So in my drive, you're going to see that my files and folders are in a list view. It's kind of like the Microsoft setup a little bit. I like to be able to see mine in a nice long list. I don't necessarily need to see like a graphic view of them, but I know, Sherry, for
I
you,
love the picture. So change that view right up there in the top right, click there.
yeah, some of you might be seeing your Google Drive in more of a visual view. So in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see the option to click on almost like it's like a 3x3 box, or a 2x3 box, a grid view. If you click that, this is going to change your view of Google Drive. And maybe this is what you're seeing, where your files and folders look more like this. Notice folders are at the top, and then any loose files that you might have are down at the bottom. Now, notice right now, this is my demo account. So this isn't actually full of all the files that I actually have. I would have more loose files kind of hanging out here at the bottom, but I am someone who loves these folders though. I'm going to just switch back to my list view, just because for me, this is how I operate. But again, of course, you can kind of change it, and you'll be able to do the same things as we talk about it. And we'll switch views again as we go through to kind of think about a few things.
And try and see which one you like best, right? As far as like it's just everyone's different. So what makes it easiest for you to find things?
We know that younger students, primary grades, they kind of like this visual view because it's easier for students to actually see what's in their Google Drive. Again, it's personal preference and kind of what you and your students need.
Especially those loose files, right? As far as like, I may not remember what I named it, but if I see that visual reminder, that's the one that I'm looking for.
Yeah. So now that we kind of have an overview, I just want to point out a few things for you inside of Google Drive. So I'm going to start with the menu on the left-hand side. In Google Drive, you'll have your new button, and we're going to talk about what's new here or what I can create in a little bit. Underneath of that, you'll see priority. This is an option that you have to use inside of Google Drive. Again, personal preference on this. For me, I don't really use my priority Google Drive very much. Basically, what Google is trying to do is help you out. They're trying to provide you with suggestions or the things that Google Drive thinks you think are a priority. So the things that you've most recently opened will be across the top, making those suggestions for you. You also could use something called workspaces. These are just places to kind of like house certain projects that you're working on. Again, for me, because I am an organizational freak and I like my folders, I don't use this because everything for me is in my drive in these really, really organized folders.
And where do I live? I live in Recents. So
Sure.
I start in Recent, Katie, every day because I'm like, well, where was I yesterday?
Yeah. So your recent files, and Sherry's talking right underneath of here. This is where we'll get to in just a second. So again, I want to point out that My Drive, when you click on My Drive, or you want to find your files, your folders, this is your filing cabinet. This is what you have created or you have added here or that you have personally organized. So this belongs to you. Unless you personally share it with someone else, everything inside of here is just yours. Depending on your school district, you might have the option to see shared drives. Now, again, we're not going to talk too much about shared drives today. I just want to point out that shared drives are created and organized by other people and then provided access to you. So you might have something like a shared drive for your school or your district or a team. Again, we're not going to chat too much about that today.
That's definitely 201.
Yep. Underneath of that, you're going to find shared with me. Now, this everyone will have. And if you go click on your shared with me, you're gonna look through here and be like, "Whoa,
Where did this
what
come
is all
from?
this stuff? Ooh, I didn't even know I had access to all this stuff." And again, your shared with me is exactly that. It's stuff, files, folders, resources, documents that other people have shared with you, either directly or with a link. And so these are the things that you have access to. And again, some of it might be yours or some of it might be from other people. We're gonna talk about how to deal with this in a little bit. Your recent is just that. It's the most recent things that you have clicked on or opened. Sherry, talk about why you use your recent section of Google Drive.
Because as you're looking at it, right, as far as like I am in so many different documents per day, and I can even look at the time, right, as far as like knowing that, oh, I was in that meeting at 11 and this is what I was shared or what I had pulled up. And so it just gives me a better picture, I guess, of where I've been. And it's almost like a roadmap to be able to pull things back up.
Yeah. And this is a really helpful feature, especially for your students who might get a little click happy, open stuff for class, and then accidentally close it and be like, I don't know what it was. I
Where
don't
did
know
it go?
where it went. I don't even know what it was called. How do I find it? Well, if you just had it open, right, you'll be able to go back and see that because you've recently opened it and it will be those listed in order, which is helpful.
Yes.
Your starred section is basically like a filter. Okay. It's not a folder. It's going to help filter out the things that you think are important. It's almost like bookmarking things inside of your Google
Favorites.
Drive. I will show you what this looks like in a little bit, but I will tell you that for me, this is how I easily find folders within folders or documents that are inside lots and lots of folders. So that way I don't have to open a million folders at once because it's something that I'm opening on a regular basis. So, for example, let's say I'm working on a figurative language unit and I have a whole folder specifically for my figurative language unit. If I know I'm going to be working on that for a couple of weeks and I don't have to keep going through all my folders to find it, I'm going to star it. And then that makes it easier for me to find. And I'll show you that in a little bit.
I love that starred too, right? As far as like, and that's usually what I need to clean up because it's like, oh, I'm finished with that project. I don't need to access that now. Unstar it. So it just keeps the good stuff at the top.
That's right. And your trash is exactly that. It is your trash. It's your digital trash can. It's the stuff you're going to throw away. Do notice at the top of your trash, items in the trash are deleted forever after 30 days. So once you put it in there, 30 days after that, it will disappear. So be thoughtful about the things that you are deleting or throwing away. It should be stuff that you know you will never, ever, ever need again. You can empty your trash. I don't ever recommend doing this. I don't think in the whole time I've ever used Google Drive, I've ever clicked this button because I might change my mind and I don't want to do that.
And Google does it for you after
It
30
does it
days.
yeah, so there's really no need to do that. Now, here's the thing too, in Google Drive, you have a lot of storage. You have so much storage available to you that honestly, I don't really even throw stuff away that much unless I know for a fact I truly don't need it because I have so much storage space that I can continue to use all those things. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to My Drive. And this is where we're going to just point out a few other things that are kind of on your homepage or, that are on your Google Drive page that are good to know about. One, the search feature. If you are someone who is not like me, No judgment, right? Again, I keep everything in files and folders. I am very meticulous about this.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, Sherry, it's not you.
No, I do not. My drive is a hot mess. That's why Katie is sharing today and not me, because it would be an embarrassment, even in my demo account, to see all my files everywhere. But Google takes care of me because I can use the Omnibox to find whatever I need. It could be the title, it could be a word. I can use any specifics. I can search just for slides, just for docs. I can do all kinds of nice little filters and find what I need all through that Omnibox.
Yeah, so you can just type in the words that you're looking for. Again, it's like the power of Google search, but what is really helpful is by going over here to your search filters, and then you can narrow this down. So like Sherry said, maybe you're like, okay, I know that someone shared a Google Slides presentation with me, but I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember what was in it. So I'm going to click presentations, and maybe that's the only thing I want to see. I just want my Google Drive to show me all of my Google Slides presentations. When I do that, I can click search, and it's just going to filter that for me. So it's
By
showing me
presentation,
only
yeah.
slides. But maybe I do remember that somewhere in the slides, I don't know what slide, I don't know if it was the title slide, I don't know what it was. Maybe I just know that it had the word homework in it. If I just search for that, now it's going to show me any slides that I have, and somewhere inside of here, it includes the word homework. Look how much that narrowed down.
Narrowed it down. Yes, completely.
Right. Something else that I like to do is sometimes I just search by people's names. So let's say that I know my friend Molly has shared something with me. So I'm just going to search for Molly. Oh, and there's her email. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And now it's going to show me that the owner of these files is Molly. And these are the things that Molly has provided access. So it's really easy to kind of narrow your search. All of these features inside of here are really helpful. So you can look by the type, by the owner. So who owns it? You, someone else, a specific person. If you have an idea of where it might be, you could always narrow that down. And then of course you have the ability to type in keywords or things like that. And again, this is the power of Google right here inside of your filing cabinet. So again, if you're not someone who's super duper organized in your real filing cabinet, think about your desk or your classroom, right? And you just got files everywhere.
That's me opening all the drawers, right? As far as like opening, was it this one? Was it that one? Let me see. What am I searching for? And it opens the drawers for me and finds it.
Bingo. I'm going to just click back on My Drive. Anytime you get lost or stuck, just click back on My Drive. It'll take you kind of back to that page. One other thing I want to point out to you is your Google Drive settings. You get to change some of the settings to make your Google Drive or your filing cabinet work for you. Now, again, I mentioned that when I go to my Google Drive, I have this suggested on. Now, I already told you, I know where my files and folders are. I know what I want to open. So I don't really need this. I don't use the suggested files and folders. So for me, one of the settings that I'm going to change is that sprocket or that gear up here, clicking on settings. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change some of my settings down here where it says suggestions, show these suggested files. Don't need them. No, thank you. And so for me, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. I could do the same thing with my shared with me if I wanted to. Another setting that I do think is helpful if you are a Microsoft user. So if you're a Microsoft user and you want to easily use your Microsoft files or store them in Google Drive and then be able to edit them with the same structure.
Well, a lot of schools are using both sometimes, right? As far as like having that and being able to go across ecosystems.
Save yourself some time and check this box. So that way, when you upload or bring in your your Microsoft files, it's going to make it a lot easier to access them and edit them in Google. All right. Now, let's chat a little bit about what we have inside of our drive. Notice that my suggested is gone.
It cleaned it up. Even I had that setting changed. I don't appreciate the suggestions. If I want to know, I like my recents. So
let's talk about what we can create inside of our Google Drive now. So we have our new button. Anytime I want to make something new in Google Drive, that's where I'm going to start, that plus button. I can create folders. You should do that if you want to stay nice and organized. You don't have to, but again, that's one way that you could do that. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder now just for fun. So we're going to do Google Drive example and click create. That's going to give me a new folder. There it is. And mine are set up in alphabetical order, including numbers or icons if I put those at the beginning. So that's why it kind of went down here. Now notice this folder, it's gray.
Don't keep it that way.
No, no, do you see I got some other folders that are not gray? If you did not know, you can totally color code your folders. So after you make a folder,
We always say right click for more.
when in doubt, right click. I'm going to say this all the time. You're going to hear me. What do I do in Google Drive if I don't know how to find something? When in doubt, right click, and you're going to get lots of options. On your folders, not on individual files, but on folders, you have the ability to change the color. Now, it's not, the whole rainbow of colors, but there are plenty to choose from. And again, the elementary teacher in me thinks science is green, social studies is blue, language arts is red, like all those things. So however it makes sense to you to color code your folders, you have the ability to do that. So again, I just right clicked on the folder, chose change color. And again, I can choose the color that makes the most sense for me.
And we're doing all of this in my drive. So this is your drive. So Katie, if you shared that folder with me, it would come over as a boring gray because shared, I get to make that decision. So I am probably going to take that Google Drive example. Maybe I'll make it hot pink, right? So I get to change it, but that's just your color, your organization.
For sure. Now, I do have the ability to also upload files. So like I said, I could upload any of my Microsoft files if I wanted to. I could bring those in. I could upload PDFs so that way I could store them in my Google Drive. I could add images if I have those that I want to add to Google Drive. My audio files, basically most files can go inside of Google Drive. Now, file upload is a single file or two, like one or two, you're selecting individual files. A folder upload, though, is where you can bring over a whole entire folder of stuff. So again, if you're switching from Microsoft to Google and you want to just bring over everything you already have, and you already are an organizational freak like me, and you love the structure of your organization, don't worry about redoing it. Just upload the whole folder. You would have that option. Now, you also are able to create new things. So all of the Google stuff that you know and love, this is where these live. So I could do Google Docs. And again, I can always click these little carrots for a blank document or from templates, sheets, slides, forms, and there is more. So if you're a Google Drawings user or a Google Maps user or a Google Sites because you want to make a website or even Jamboard, right? A favorite tool, all of that lives inside of here. And this is why we tell people to start from Drive, right? Just live in your filing cabinet because it's going to make it a lot easier to organize and find your stuff later. So for now, I'm just going to make a new Google document just to show you what this looks like. Don't forget when you make new things to title it. So I'm just going to call it Google Drive example again. Boy, I know where it's at. Now, right now, when I create stuff in Google Drive this way, if I were to close out of this, notice that this is just hanging out loose here in my Google Drive. Sherry, what do you think? What do I deal with this? If I don't want all these loose files, what should I do?
I can drag it and drop it into a folder that I have.
So I could drag it up to this Google Drive example, and I could this folder that I made, and I could drop it in there. Notice I'm just clicking and holding my mouse and dragging it here. That's one way I could do that. What else? What other things could I do?
Always more, right? So if I right click, I should be able to do something to this. So if I right click, I'm going to be able to move it somewhere. I've got so many different options that I can do there, but I can choose the file that I want to move it into, the folder.
That's right. So I could always move it that way as well. So I could click move to, and then I could go find that folder I wanted to use. So I could go choose that folder and click move here. And now if I were to go back to my Google Drive example, this is where that document would be. If I want to save time though, and I don't have to move stuff every single time, what I could do, which would be super smart, is I could open the folder first, then create something new, and it would automatically be inside of here. So I'm going to do this again. I open the folder.
Smarter, not harder tip, right? Yep. We're organizing on the go.
Back example 2. I'm going to close out of that, and notice as soon as I refresh, it's going to show up here in this folder, which is really helpful. Okay. Now, do you know, like just the same way that we did with documents, you can move folders inside of folders. So you are able to do that as well. So maybe inside of this Google Drive example, maybe I want to put, I want to move my Google Bootcamp folder inside of here. I could click and drag and move the whole folder inside of here as well. So I'm able to do that. Easy, easy peasy.
That's me. I'm a click and dragger. I know you like the right click, but I like to drag things around.
I am a right clicker. That is very much my style. And again, you do what works best for you. Now, here's the really cool thing about your Google Drive. So this Google Drive example, so like let's say that this is a folder that I know I'm going to be clicking and opening on a regular basis. And eventually when I have a lot of stuff inside of here, I want to know how do I find it easily without having to search through or scroll through pages of folders or files. We mentioned earlier that you can star things or basically add a bookmark. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click again, when in doubt, right click. And I'm going to go ahead and click add to starred. So for me, this is where I'm going to go ahead and click that. Notice it now has that little gray star. And when I go over here to my starred in my menu, it's a filter. It's going to filter out anything that has a star on it. And you could do this for individual files or folders. When I'm done with it, so let's say after this training or after this session, I'm finished with this and I don't really need to have this starred or bookmarked for me anymore. I can right click and remove from starred. This is really helpful, again, as you are doing units or chapters. If your students are working on similar projects over and over and over again for your class and it's hard for them to find stuff, have them star it and then come back to it later.
And Katie, another way to do that as far as like, so if I were actually in that Google Drive, so go ahead and click on that Google Drive example folder. And so I tend to add it from there as far as I click that drop down. And then I have the option to add the starred. And that's the way I add a star because I'm like, oh, this is the folder that I want to get back to. I'm going to, click that and make sure that it goes there. So
Yeah.
another way to get there.
So again, same way to do the same or a different way to do the same thing because that's what Google's all about. Now, let's go back to your shared with me for a second because maybe there's things inside of here that I'm like, okay, we're talking about organization. I'm making these folders. I'm thinking about ways to move stuff around. What do I do with all this stuff? Because I want to organize this. Fair warning, you cannot actually organize this section.
This is the hot mess part.
This is just the hot mess. It's just the pile, okay? However, I do have the ability to move some of these things into files or folders, or I have the ability to add a shortcut, basically. I have a way to like organize it into the files or folders that I already have, which is great. So notice that, let's see, I have a reflection that I did on the school year. This is something that was shared with me. So from a different account or something that I created before, and now I have access to it. If I want to actually deal with this, because I don't want to just like keep searching through here and be like, wow, look at all these files. Like, where is it? I can't find it. I could search for it, but that becomes a pain. Maybe I'm like, okay, here's something that I know I want to access easy later. In my shared with me, when I find the file or the folder that I want easy access to, what you should do is right click. And this time what you're going to look for is that add shortcut to drive. If this is a file that you actually have access to or that you're a part owner of, you have the ability to move it, but most of the time it's just going to be this add shortcut to drive. So if I go ahead and click add shortcut to drive, it's going to show me where all these places I could put it. So again, starting in my drive, find the folder that I want to put it in and click add shortcut. I could continue doing this with other files and folders that I know that I'm going to need access to. So let me try a different one. Okay, I'm going to see, okay, how about this Google Drawing? Maybe I want access to this. Now notice I don't have the option to move this one because I don't have editing access or I'm not an owner of this. So I'm just going to add shortcut to drive, do the same thing, add shortcut. And now when I go back to my Google Drive and I go into my folder, I'm going to see that those have been added there. I'll know they're shortcuts because they have those little arrows. I don't have the ownership, but I do have the ability to go in and access these and view these files. And that's how you know that those are in your folder.
And once you've put them back into your drive, you don't have to worry about going and searching for it in shared with me ever again. So
that's right. So if you, again, use that search feature or use the add shortcut feature, and that's going to make your life a lot easier.
Love that.
Okay. Now, as we start thinking about using our Google Drive, again, we recommend that you use your files and folders to stay organized. However, there are a few things that you can do that might be helpful for you. One of them might be just like adding emojis or adding icons to your folder. So that way it helps you kind of visually see where things are inside of your Google Drive. If for whatever reason you want to rename your folders or you want to, again, create new ones with those icons and stuff inside of there, you have the ability to right click and choose rename that pencil icon. And then wherever you get your emojis from, if you're using a computer that has an emoji keyboard, you could pull that up. You could use a website or a Chrome extension that allows you to easily find emojis. You can add these anywhere inside at the beginning or the end of, or even in the middle, honestly, of your title. So for me on my Mac, I'm going to pull up my emoji keyboard, and maybe for Google Drive example, I'm going to put a green heart because I love me some Google Drive, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I have this icon that's here.
So at the end, I noticed it didn't move your file at all, right? As far as like, it does not affect how it is parsing through it, right? As far as like, it's still alphabetical. If you moved it to the beginning, it's going to push it to the top, right?
That's right. So if I were to put that here, because it's alphabetical order by the order of your files or the names or the letters, this would put it more towards the top here.
Yes. Emojis at the top.
So there's that. There's those kind of ways to organize. Now, here's the thing. This is my filing cabinet, but the best part about Google is the ability to collaborate and share with other people. We want to make sure that people can use our files to access and edit them. We want to work together in a digital space because that's just the world we live in now. So let's say I want to share this folder with Sherry because I know that we are going to be adding things to this folder together. We're going to be working on it together. Maybe she's my co-teacher and we want to share files and resources. When I'm ready to share an entire folder or even individual documents, big surprise, I'm going to right click and click on that people plus icon, that share icon. You're going to notice that people plus icon is also here at the top. So you'll find lots of different ways that you can find that. But I'm going to go ahead and click that share. A few ways that I can share things. I can type people's names. So for example, right now I'm only just sharing with Sherry. She's my co-teacher. I want her to have edit access to this. Notice if I have edit access, she has the ability to organize, add, and edit files. So she could add stuff, she could delete stuff, she could move stuff. She has basically the same rights as I do.
Use wisely.
If I don't want her to do that because I don't feel like she's a very responsible Google Drive user, I could make her a viewer and all she could do is look at the folder and everything that's inside of it. So whatever I do inside this folder applies to all the files as well. For now, I trust Sherry, so I'm going to let her be an editor. Notify her. And I'm going to say, here's our folder. This is going to send her an email and let her know that she now has access to my folder. I know this file is shared or this folder is shared because it has the person icon on it. This is an easy way to tell if your files or folders are shared. Folders, the person icon is on the folder. Files that are loose are just off to the side, and you'll notice that those are shared as well. I could share this lots of other ways as well. So I could click that share button one more time. And if I didn't necessarily want to share with just individual people, let's say I had to share this to my whole staff and I wanted a really easy way to do that, I could share it with a link. The default here, and Google's trying to tell me, look, I can share these options with a link. I can change this from just restricted, which is the individual people. I could share this with my domain. So yours would say your school domain here. Right. So for us, it's 5-Star Technology Solutions, meaning anyone who has access to this domain could view this or comment or edit, depending on the permissions that I want them to have. From now, I don't want everyone to be able to edit all my files inside of this. So I'm going to go ahead and click Viewer. I could copy this link and I could send that out. I could send it out in an email and be like, here's our file or our folder that we're going to be using for the meeting today. And that would make it really easy. I also have the ability to do anyone with the link. This is helpful if you are sharing outside of your domain. So for me, sometimes I was going to be sharing documents or a PDF or maybe like a newsletter for parents, and I wanted them to be able to click on it, but they didn't have a school account. So I would change it to anyone with the link. Again, definitely making this a viewer option. I don't want anyone in the whole wide world to be able to edit or organize these things. Copy that link, and then I could easily send that out via email or post it on my website. However, it makes sense to get things to other people outside of your domain. And of course, when you're done, you'll click done.
And you hit on this briefly, and I just want to say it one more time as we're talking about organizing and sharing. And I know we're actually getting to the end of our time with y'all today, but I love that I can set up that permissions for the folder. And so maybe I have lots of documents in there and I, don't want to have to go through the trouble of, I want to share this one with 4 different people on my team. I want to actually share this entire folder make sure everybody can see things, and it just transfers those permissions across. And so it's like that funneling down.
Yep. Again, in Google Drive, you can obviously share individual things as well. But again, sometimes it's easier just to share your whole folder. So files, folders, however that makes sense to you. All right, Sherry, anything else on Google Drive before we wrap up today? Anything else that we need to point out, you think, just on our basic level here?
Oh my goodness. I think we've covered lots and lots. Everybody knows this is where we're going to store things. We know how to create new things, that big plus at the top there. We're going to say super organized because we're going to start with a folder and then create inside of a folder. Just leave this tab open. Google Drive. It should be your go-to for everything all day long.
That's right. So thanks all for learning with us. We appreciate your time. Hopefully you've been able to pick up a few new tricks to get to Google Drive, organize your Google Drive, and share all the awesome stuff that you have inside of there.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.